Welcome to the Judges end of series game. I'm going to read a summary of the different judges that we've studied. And when I come to a blank, I'm going to pause, allow you time to pause your video, but I will point to which section the correct image that answers that question is at. Have your students pick out what that image is and then continue with the game. After the time of the conquest of the Promised Land, there was a time of peace, but this peace ended because the Israelites began disobeying God. They began intermarrying with the heathen nations surrounding them, and this intermarrying led to the worship of blank. The worship of idols. It was plural because they worshiped multiple different idols. Okay, God loved the Israelites, but he hated their sin. That's why the angel of the Lord appeared to them to rebuke them and call them back to him. They repented, but the angel of the Lord told them that because of their disobedience, he would not drive out the enemy blanks surrounding them. The enemy, and it's one of the words up top. Nations. He would not drive out the enemy nations that were surrounding them. These heathens, or unbelieving people, would be a constant threat to the Israelites. Once again, even after the angel of the Lord's appearance to them, they began worshiping idols. That's why God sent an enemy general, General Sisera, to conquer their land. For 20 years, bands of Canaanite blank attacked them. Bands of Canaanite soldiers attacked them. But they had no way to fight back because General Sisera had confiscated all of their blank. All of their weapons. One day, after Israel repented and begged for God's forgiveness, the prophetess or judge named Deborah called for General Barak, Israel's general. She told him that God wanted him to defeat General Sisera's blank army, to defeat General Sisera's army. But General Barak refused to do as God directed unless Deborah went with him. Deborah agreed, but she told him that the honor of killing General Sisera would be given into the hand of a blank. The hand of a woman. When the Canaanite army attacked, God sent a heavy rain mixed with blank. Mixed with hail, a tremendous hailstorm. The rain caused General Sisera's 900 iron chariots to sink into the blank. To sink into the mud, making them useless. And the hailstorm killed more Canaanite soldiers than the sword. General Sisera fled on blank. He fled on foot. When he came to the tent of Jael, she pretended to be on his side. She gave him milk to drink and stood guard by the door of her tent. But as soon as he was asleep, she took a tent peg and blanked it into his temple. And blanked it into his temple. Hammered. She took a tent peg and hammered it into his temple. When General Barak arrived, his enemy was already dead. After 40 years of peace, the Israelites once again began worshiping idols. This time, the Lord sent the Midianites to punish them. For 7 years, the Midianites swarmed into the land like blank. They swarmed into the land like locusts. They swarmed in like locusts. And they harvested Israel's crops. They took any animals they wanted, killed or enslaved the people they found. The Israelites would hear the Midianites coming and flee to the hills to hide in blank until their enemies left. To hide in caves. They hid in caves until the Midianites left. Because of this, the Israelites became poor and began starving for lack of food. Finally, some of them repented of their idolatry and cried out to God for deliverance. The angel of the Lord once again appeared, but this time he visited only one man, Gideon. He called Gideon a mighty man of valor and instructed him to go in his strength and defeat the Midianites. Gideon's first assignment was to destroy the altar of blank. Destroy the altar of, and it's either up there or down below. The altar of Baal, to destroy the altar of Baal that was on his father's property. After Gideon destroyed this altar, the men of the city who worshipped Baal wanted him dead. Gideon's father, who was himself a Baal worshiper, said that if Baal was truly a god, he could fight his own battles. Because of Gideon's stance, 32,000 men joined him. God told Gideon that 32,000 men were too many because when he gave Israel the victory, they would take the credit for themselves. God narrowed Gideon's army down to only 300 men, probably those who had never blank a knee to the false gods. Those who had never what? A knee. Bowed. Probably those who had never bowed a knee to the false gods. God told Gideon to give each of these 300 men a vase or a pitcher, a blank, and a horn. A blank and a horn. A torch, to give them a torch. And to divide them into 3 groups. These 3 groups were to surround the Midianites' camp, and when it was time, they each broke their vases, raised their torches, and blew their blanks. Blew their horns, the ram's horns that they had. Then they shouted, "The sword of the Lord and of Gideon." The Midianites were so frightened that they began killing each other. God gave the Israelites peace for another 40 years until they once again turned to idolatry. The next nation God raised up to rule over the Israelites were the Philistines. They were a mighty nation who worshipped Dagon, a god who was half man and half blank. Fish. Dagon was half man and half fish. When Israel repented, God sent a man who would live as a Nazarite, meaning he was set apart for a special purpose. He would begin to rescue the Israelites from the hand of the Philistines. Nazarites had special rules to follow, including to never cut their blank. To never cut their hair, eat grapes, or drink strong drink. The man's name that God raised to be the Nazarite was blank. Samson. Samson. One day, when Samson was visiting a Canaanite city, he saw a woman whom he wanted as his wife. His parents tried to discourage this marriage because they knew God had instructed their people to not marry heathen women, but Samson would not listen. When they traveled to her family to arrange the marriage, a blank attacked Samson. A blank attacked Samson. A lion. A lion attacked Samson. He killed the lion by tearing apart his jaws. Later, when he returned for the ceremony, he found a blank living inside the lion's skeleton. He found a beehive. He found a beehive living inside the lion's skeleton. He ate some of the blank. He ate some of the honey and gave his parents some, but he never told them where it came from. At the marriage feast, Samson posed a riddle for his 30 companions. Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. When the 30 men couldn't figure out the riddle, they threatened his new wife and her family. She pleaded with Samson until he told her the answer. Then she forwarded that answer to them. When Samson discovered her betrayal, he was so angry that he left without her. Her father thought he hated her, so he gave her to another man. When Samson learned this, he caught 300 blanks. He caught 300 foxes, 300 foxes, tied them in bunches of 2 by their tails, placed a burning torch between each set of tied foxtails, and turned them loose to burn the Philistine crops. When the Philistine leaders discovered Samson had burned their crops because his ex-father-in-law had given his ex-wife to another man, they killed her and her father. As a result, Samson ended up killing 1,000 men with the jawbone of a blank. 1,000 men with the jawbone of a donkey. With the jawbone of a donkey. After judging Israel for 20 years, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah. His mistake was choosing his own desires over obedience to God. The Philistine princes offered Delilah a great amount of blank. Silver. A great amount of silver, if she could discover the secret to his great strength. She did, and as a result, the Philistines captured Samson, gouged out his eyes, took him to Gaza, and made him grind grain every day. As he worked grinding the grain, he had a lot of time to blank. Think. He had a lot of time to think, and he got his heart right with God. One day, the Philistines decided to throw a great celebration honoring their god blank, honoring their god, look over the whole board, Dagon. Remember, he's half human and half fish. For delivering Samson into their hands. The Philistine leaders, plus 3,000 of the richest and most influential people of the land, gathered for this great celebration. They brought Samson to the celebration to mock him. And at one point during the celebration, Samson asked a boy to take him to the 2 great blanks in the center of the building, to the 2 great pillars. Take him to the 2 great pillars in the center of the building. Samson blinked. One final prayer. He what? He prayed. Samson prayed one final prayer, placed his hands on the pillars, pushed, and brought the entire building down, killing everyone present. In the end, he killed more in his death than he had in his life, and these were the most important and influential people in the land of the Philistines.